Welcome back. We're in Ableton Live today to see how we can use Volcano 3 as a versatile tone shaper, allowing you to add texture and color to your sound. It's a filter plugin featuring an extensive sound palette and packing a lot of bells and whistles. Before we dive in, let's begin with a quick overview of the plugin. You can create a new band by clicking and dragging anywhere on the curve. From there, you can adjust the band type, as well as the frequency, peak, and slopes using the settings below or your usual FabFilter shortcuts. Once you have multiple bands, you can also experiment with changing the routing mode from serial to parallel to find what sounds best based on your taste and your context. Additionally, you'll notice the filter style setting, which allows you to explore different sounding filters featuring non-linearities, which you can push more or less using the drive knob. While you will find a link to this more in-depth article by TDR in the description, let's take a minute to briefly explain what are non-linearities. Linear behavior in the context of audio processing refers to a system or device that follows the principles of linearity, meaning that the relationship between its input and output is predictable and proportional, regardless of the input signal. In simpler terms, you can expect the same type of effect to be applied no matter what you feed into it. Non-linearities, on the other hand, are deviations from the expected linear behavior of the equipment. These deviations often add unique character and color to audio signals, and they are responsible for a good part of the analog gear mojo or magic that we often hear about. I recommend using oversampling to avoid any aliasing from non-linearities by enabling the high quality setting at the bottom of the plugin. The auto-mute self-oscillation will allow you to make sure that the filter only outputs sounds when there is an active input playing into it. With that in mind, although made to be a filter and with limited bands, let's use Volcano 3 on our master and show you what it can do. We'll start by creating two shelves and pairing them together either to create a boost or a dip based on your context and needs. You can already hear the difference, right? Of course, feel free to experiment with the different filter styles and driving them more or less. I'll demonstrate a few. Even a tad too bright for the example, so of course then you can fine-tune it and basically find exactly what you want it to sound like. It's a bit better, something like that, and then we can of course use the dry wet function to keep it more subtle if we want. Additionally, thanks to FabFilter amazing software, we can easily add extra modulations to pretty much any setting, be it to add subtle movement or get even wild creatively speaking. So let me show you, for example, here on our synth. I'll put it in solo. So without any modulations, sounds like that. And basically the slider allows me to push the modulations of two LFOs that are mapped to the frequency of this band this first one here, which is synced to 1/16 and actually modulating the frequency very fast, but in rhythm. And another one that's really slower, and that's actually modulating in a bigger range the thing. Finally, I've just mapped this slider here to control both of the LFO's mapping. If I were to recreate those just to show you, for example, start with a new XLFO, set it to the speed that you like, and use this little outlet here to put it directly to the knob you want to control. From there, you have a modulation range that you can adjust. Let's do it again for our second LFO. Which will put slower and map it as well to the frequency. You note that you can also map a modulation to a modulation, so you can get really wild, right? Okay, perfect. So then we want to add a slider to control both of those modulations at the same time. We'll use this little slider here and map this one directly to the two modulations, right? From there you can see those zones here that will allow you basically to modulate more or less your effect. So I invite you to turn it all the way up. You will see this little extra shadow basically, and from there you are able to dial down the initial LFOs and keep only this, which now controls both of the modulations. What's interesting with this is that after that you can create some offsets, right? Let's say you want one to be more present than the other. You can totally do that. Or at the opposite, have more modulation and keep the faster one more subtle. It's a great way to easily add some movement, extra character, and some more originality to your sound, I would say. I really invite you to explore all of the modulator sources and play around with them to find your best recipes. And once you find something that you like, you can actually save it very easily. Save as, and you enter the name, such as Synth mod, for example, which you can save in your preset folder. You will then have it directly in your list here, just like I did for my tone default, which is my default kind of tone shaper preset, just to not have to create the two shelves every time, etc, etc. I can just adjust them and reach for what I want directly. Using those techniques will enable you to bring back to life some dull elements and to further shape your sound. Once you are more familiar with the plugin, you can easily create very useful processing chains, such as this one to put emphasis and boost your kick. Here, I'm using an envelope follower modulation source to track the envelope of the kick and boost different frequency bands when it hits. The intensity is dialed in different proportions for each band, and all of the modulation amounts are controlled by the kick boost slider for more convenience. By the way, this preset, along with the tone shaper starting point and the synth modulation examples demonstrated in this video, are included on my Patreon, where I provide support to artists and access to exclusive resources. Feel free to check the link in the description for more information. To conclude, feel free to experiment with it and share your discoveries with the community on Discord. You'll find the link in the description to join if you haven't yet. Stay productive and see you next time.